The next style of temporary tattoo I'm going to be showing you is the tattoo transfer. So this is a tattoo transfer that's been made specifically to look like a realistic tattoo. And the way you apply this is exactly like you did a tattoo that you would have gotten out of a gumball machine when you were a kid. Only this is meant to look realistic, as those weren't necessarily meant to look the most realistic. So what you want to do when you get these transfers is you want to cut the outside edge out and leave about 1/4 of an inch around the outside. The closer the cut you get to the edge, the better the blend will be. So following the shape as opposed to doing a straight cut across and a straight cut up, just follow the natural flow of the design will look much more realistic. Now the brand that I'm using here, this is called Hookup Tattoos, but there are a few companies on the market that are making very realistic temporary tattoos. Tinsley transfers, they're actually, you may remember them from our first module, they made those prosthetic transfers that we use to do the injury looks. They also make a very wide variety of different temporary tattoos that are meant to work on film and TV to give a very realistic appearance. Now, if you're doing something that is meant to maintain continuity, where you have to do the same character for multiple days or maybe weeks in a row, you would want to have something pre-made like this that you can have backups of. That way you can just reapply the exact same thing as many times as you need to without having to do the technique of hand drawing it. Hand drawing it is a great technique for a one-time option, but just keep in mind, if you need to replicate that, it's going to be very difficult to replicate something that you're hand drawing on the fly versus something that's pre-made. It can be fairly expensive to do a large quantity of tattoos on someone, but just know, like everything I've said in this course so far, the quality of what you purchase gives a big effect in how the makeup actually looks at the end of the day. So don't skimp on the products that you purchase if you're looking to get a very realistic tattoo effect. Once you get more into the tattoo world, you can actually learn how to make your own tattoo transfers, which is what I actually do at home. I have a laser printer that I can actually custom draw, blend, and make my own tattoos with. And this comes in handy when you're actually custom designing custom tattoos for a specific character. So that's a bit of an advanced technique that is fairly easy to learn, but really comes more in handy if you're doing this quite frequent. As with all the other makeup things, be sure to be patient when you're doing this. The last thing you want to do is accidentally cut right into it, because then you've ruined the design. So just be patient with your cutting. Make sure that you're following the flow of the design. And this certainly also, if you know that you're meant to use this on the day of, this is absolutely something that should be done before you get to set. This is part of prepping your kit to have it ready for the day. We're doing this to show you how to do the technique, but just know if you have sheets and sheets of temporary tattoos that you know you're using for tomorrow, for example, cut them out the night before. That way when you arrive to set, you don't have to waste time cutting the material out. You can just apply it and go. You should always be thinking of things that can save you time the day of. That way you have more time to focus on the actual makeup. Okay, now that we have our design cut out, what we're going to do is we're going to clean the area and the surface that we're going to be applying this to with alcohol, the same as we did for the tattoo cover-up. You just want the skin to be free of alcohol, or you just want the skin to be free of oils and moisture and lotion as much as possible to get the best effect out of this. So we're going to apply this in this area, and a good method you can use to measure where you're going to go is just hold this up in the area you're looking to put it in, just to get an idea of where you'll be cleaning off. So we know mostly in the center area, and then up on the collarbone slightly is where we want to clear. This is just, again, alcohol and a cotton swab. While that's drying down, what you can do is you can get a paper towel prepped and ready. Now it is a good idea, especially to be more eco-friendly, you can keep actual washcloths in your kit that you can immerse in water and then you'll take home at the end of the night and clean, of course. But for this, we'll start with just paper towels. Almost dry down, just fan it a little. Once the skin is dry down, what you're going to do is remove the clear backing. Now this step, you don't want to do this until right when you're ready to apply it, because this part is sticky, there's an adhesive to it. So if you remove this plastic part and say just let it sit on the table until you're ready, it's going to start attracting dust and then it's not going to apply as smooth as you want it to. Now because this is sticky, we're not touching this top part anymore. This plastic is gone. So we're holding it from the edge. And now what we're going to do is I like to go, if I'm doing something right in the center, I'll stand right in the center also and look straight on. That way you know that you're getting the correct angle. So size up where you want it to go. Again, you want to make sure it's in the right spot before you push it onto the skin, because once it is pushed onto the skin, there's no turning back. So just kind of hovering it in the general area. Once you have the general idea, I like to start with the center first, kind of press the center down, get it locked in, and then press all the other areas. You want to make sure that you've hit all the different areas to adhere to the skin before you actually go in with the water. And you will have to be careful around the collarbone, things like that, because it will pop up in some areas. Just note that when you're getting the attachment down, that you have to kind of move things around the different bone structures. It's not always going to lay completely flat because the skin's not completely flat. So now what we do is we take some water and you want to completely saturate this towel. If you have a bucket of water to dip into or running water that you can just wring the surface out, obviously that will go a bit faster, but at the very least you should have a spray bottle of water on hand in your kit. That way you always have a water source on the go. Sometimes you're working in areas where you don't have a water source, or the water source is non-potable water, or it's very far away. So having something that you're able to use without having to leave the area is the key. Now that we've got this fairly saturated, what we're going to do is hold this directly onto the tattoo. And be patient here. It's not a rush when it comes down to it. You want to make sure all the different areas and every part of that paper is getting saturated. Now, because there's some areas outside of where we have that, I'm going to lift off slightly from where we were and just make sure that, hold this in place with one hand and make sure that the other areas have a chance to get water on them as well before you start to peel anything off. And the paper will want to move. Once it's ready to be released, you'll see that it'll start to kind of move a bit. Now what I like to do is just test the edges slightly. You can see if it's coming off easily, then it's ready. If there's any part that's still kind of sticking around, then you want to add a little bit more water and release the product more before you go in and remove. And just slowly peel this away. You may see some areas stick up a little bit, but that's okay. While there's still water on your hand, just press it into the skin. That way it adheres before it gets a chance to dry. And like I said, just be patient with this removal here. And you easily have your transfer temporary tattoo that looks very realistic. Now, we're going to let this dry. Because this is made from an adhesive, it actually will work better on the skin if you take a hair dryer and just hit it for a minute or two with some warm air. It'll help to kind of melt into the skin a bit better. However, the longer it sits on the skin, it will do that job also, because again, the body does give off heat. So if it is sitting on the skin, it will give off some heat to blend in. But if you needed to blend a bit faster, just taking that hair dryer and hitting it for a few minutes or so will give a better effect for you, a little bit quicker. Now, when you're designing a look, I like to do the focal piece first. So this is what I would call the focal piece, because this is kind of right when the first thing that you see, you're able to kind of see from there, okay, now everything else can kind of be planned around that to give the effect. So we're going to go in with a few other temporary tattoos as well. I like to start with these, and then we're going to build into our next step, which is going to be actually airbrushing some tattoos on. So I have a few others. These are called fillers. Now these little ones can be used to just kind of fill in little background spots. And then we have another one also that can also be somewhat of a main piece that I'll probably put either somewhere over here or somewhere over here. I like to get these transfer ones down first if I'm using multiple at the same time, because then you're able to really have a good base to go off of. And sometimes you're not always blending techniques. Sometimes you're only doing hand-drawn ones, sometimes you're only doing transfer styles, and sometimes you're only doing airbrush style. It really just depends what you need it for, how long it needs to be worn for, and also what you prefer. So the tattoo transfers will last the longest, as opposed to airbrush. Can also last a good deal of time as well, but these are the quickest to apply. As you can tell, these, if you've had these pre-cut and ready to go, you can apply them in a matter of minutes, and then they're ready to go from there. Once everything is dried down, you do see a slight shine to it. That's natural to see that shine. If you want to remove a little bit of the shine, simply take some of your no color powder on the cotton pad, tap on top, and dust it away. That'll remove a bit of the shine for you, so it doesn't look as obvious that there's something there. This one's a bit faster to cut out because it doesn't have all of the intricate detail as that main one did. Now, part of the reason we cut so close to the edge is not only so it looks more realistic, but it's so you don't see as much of the shine. Because this product has a natural shine, if we had left it out to about here, then it would be shiny from here all the way to here, and it would be much more obvious that there was something placed there versus it being a true tattoo. Another method that you can use if you're looking for a more aged look than what this one is, because this gives a pretty fresh tattoo look. It looks pretty nice, pretty new. If you're looking for it to be a bit more aged, we're not going to do the same trick that we did up there, but what you can do is you can take a bit of your skin illustrator in the complexion tones, and using that flicking technique that I taught you earlier, you can do that with some natural skin tones over top of this to just break up the tone so it looks like it's a bit more underneath the skin versus on top of it. So that again will be a choice in, depending on the character, if they just got the tattoo done, then you might want to leave it just as that. Or if it's meant to be something that they've had for a very long time and there's a lapse in time, then you would want to age it up a little bit and make it look like there's a bit more of skin tone over top of it versus underneath it. So again, it all comes into details and planning. So I think we'll put this right about here on her. So again, we're going to clean the area with some alcohol. It is a good idea as well to buy a tiny handheld fan that's battery operated for moments like this. If you don't have a blow dryer that you can use a cool setting on, you can just take this fan and hold the fan right there to speed the process up a bit. Okay, now that it's dried down, again, we're just going to remove the outside plastic. And a good thing too, same with those prosthetic transfers, if you forgot what the tattoo looks like, you can always hold it up to the light and see where the design is to make sure that you're putting it in the same area. If it's hard for you to see here where it's going to go because it's inverted, holding it up to the light will be exactly how it's going to look. So now we decided we want it to be about here. I'm going to press that center down. And shift around from there. Now, if they already have pre-existing tattoos, which she does have this tattoo back here, remember, we planned it so that this is just barely touching it. You don't want to overlap the other tattoo, especially if you're building a good look and a full look where it's going to be very visible. Make sure that they're separate. Make sure that there's a little bit of space there so they don't overlap. Once we press that down, we can go back in with our water. And just apply this with some pressure. Let's go ahead and take a look. Still giving a bit of resistance, so we're going to hold a bit longer, get a little bit more water on here. Again, just be patient with it. Don't try and force it off. It'll naturally slide off when it's ready to go. Can test it again. Okay, it's coming off pretty easily now. Now we have our second tattoo in there. And now we're going to move on to actual airbrush tattoos. We're going to come back for these other filler ones, but I want to use some of the airbrush tattoos first to kind of get a base down of where we're going, and then we'll go back and fill in with some of the smaller transfers if we need to. Now these stencils are really nice because they have a lot of freehand ability. So I'm just taking them off of the little base that they were on. We have some skull and crossbones here. We also have the skulls, which they have these little notches, which are great because having the notch, we're going to airbrush over this. Having this notch is going to allow us to actually, one, hold in an area that doesn't have anything in there, but it also leaves room for other things to be added. So when you're spraying over here, you can actually know there's a little space there, which if you can imagine, this could fit perfectly in there, this could fit there like it's going through. You have the ability to layer these and build them up to really create a more of a custom design, but with stencils.